So when I'm thinking about this, I tend to think of this and explain it almost like a pendulum, where if you're getting the big bright light during the day, that pendulum is going to swing so much further over into the side. And the problem, as I
Yeah.
understand it, is if I'm waking up, I'm driving to work in the dark, I go into my office, I might
Yes.
not see the light all day, then I drive home or I work from home, like you said, which is way more prevalent now. And then
Yeah.
I stay up and I watch Netflix. So it's just like instead of getting big light and then no light, it's like I'm getting this low light during the day and then way too much light at night. And so that pendulum just can't swing in either direction. Is that an okay way to think about it?
Ah, so well said, 100%. And what's so cool about really the physics of light and starting to explore some of this is that there does appear to be a bit of this quantum effect. People might have heard of quantum biology starting to emerge, at least in the mainstream conversation a bit more. But the takeaway is that there appears to be some really profound effects by just even setting yourself up for success to even get some light. So when you're in that car, even the power of just rolling down the window to get that unadulterated, unobstructed light. And again, free intervention. When we are working from home, how we can potentially move some of the phone calls we got to have outside, how we can have little breaks throughout the day. I have a particular niche in high stakes poker. So I work with a lot of high stakes poker players. They're in what? They're in casinos designed on purpose to confuse the circadian rhythm, an absence of windows, an absence of clocks, lots of stimuli, lots of bright lights, no real sense of what time of day it is. And so when we see groups like that, even them we're able to still interpret. It's pretty challenging. It does take some work. Like we have to get them to physically in between their breaks to go outside, which can take forever when you're a casino. They're huge, they're massive. To even find the exit is like a thing in a lot of
Good
these
call.
places. But so setting up to get some of these sunlight breaks, if we think of analogies of smokers of yesterday, if you will, they would get those smoke breaks reliably. They would make that happen, still figure out a way to get themselves outside to have those smoke breaks. We want to have some sun breaks throughout the day, not just a nice to have, but really crucial. We had Dr. Sachin Panda on the podcast, who is right, made a big ripple
So
or
good.
wave in this space, and decades of research out of the Salk Institute. So one of the things that he pointed to was some of the research in his lab, requiring at least 30 minutes to an hour outside of bright light exposure to sufficiently create melatonin in the evening to set you up for success and sufficient melatonin pulse at night. And that even in of itself can be kind of like confusing for people. Why would I need bright light to make melatonin the hormone of darkness or vampire hormone at night? Well, that's a longer conversation, but just sit with how could I bring this in as a behavioral change piece to get ourselves outside at least that 30 minutes to an hour each day.
I love that. I was going to ask you if you had any practical tips for the person
Yeah.
that said, I do have an office job. I do work from home. I do take meetings. I love answering this question. I also get frustrated when people say they can't get outside. You can comb through your calendar. I
Yes.
guarantee you can find calls that you can take on a walk. One of the best things I ever did with a manager that I had was just say, like, why are we doing this meeting inside? You're behind a desk. I feel like I'm sitting below you. It feels really condescending anyway. Why don't we go and take this weekly meeting that we're doing and let's go walk at the park next door. I'm
Okay.
side by side with you walking. So I think there's a component of that that feels like we're going through problems and sorting things out together. It was
Mm,
awesome. It was great. I loved it. Like there's so many solutions that
amazing.
people could have if they just think about taking lunch outside. Like there's so many ways that people can get out there.
Yes, 100%. And it's so funny. I'll see when we start kind of bringing that in, then it can often have this nice kind of like Simon Says effect where you're on your group Zoom call. And if you start being the leader, we talk about literally sleep leadership in our programs, and which can apply to lots of things. The people that, you're kind of setting yourself up to both have a social life and leave the, social event at somewhere to still get yourself sufficient rest, etc. That sleep leadership, often you kind of can help set the tone for others. And same with those calls. So suddenly you're in this like great blue sky background, then you might often see people following suit.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. So for the person that is heading out and they want to be outside in the sun, so they get their long sleeves and they get their sunglasses and they get their big hat and they slather
Yes.
themselves with sunscreen. Why would that not be the best idea?
Oh my gosh, so good. And this is where people start getting confused, and rightfully so. Why wouldn't we? Because for so many years, there's been these call it like kind of fear the sun, avoid the sun, from many different voices and many different perspectives. So, couple things. One, we want to think of the sun as a drug because it really has measurable drug-like effects, phototherapy. And so when we think about any drug, then you want to be smart and mindful about the dosing and the timing and all the things. So when we look at the dosing and the timing, one, we must get that unadulterated sunlight, both in our eyes, and then that has tons of evidence. That is very clear. Where you have less research around, or it's conflicting and different types of research on the skin and photoreceptors. But there's still certain things that we want to be aware of. One, so for the getting it the sunlight in our eyes, we absolutely want to take away those sunglasses to get that bright light in our eyes. I don't even own sunglasses anymore. I used to be someone that would just always be like some sort of zombie person with lots of maybe zombie is not the right, but vampire person with the with the sunglasses. So taking those aside now, of course, asterisks if you're driving and certain times you might need these for safety. Always have to put these asterisks out because people just seem to get hung up on the yeah, but please don't lose the main message for the certain times, the yeah buts. But largely the average person is going to be wildly benefited by removing those sunglasses, getting that light into the eyes. It's the eyes, even the proximity is directly connected and close to that suprachiasmatic nucleus, that master clock that's going to communicate and act as that conductor to these peripheral clocks in virtually every cell and organ in your body. So trillions of little clocks, if you want to visualize it like that, that just are desperately looking to stay on time, and they need your guidance. So that's the first place, from the resetting of that master clock and keeping it in tune throughout the course of the day. So always starting in the morning, that's known as sunlight anchoring, then sampling throughout the course of the rest of the day. Then with the skin piece, well, one, we know that so many people are dealing with vitamin D, low levels of vitamin D. And how do we really need to get vitamin D? It's called out based on your Fitzpatrick scale. So finding where you fall on the skin type scale. So you might need different dosing at different lengths of time, and depending where you fall on the globe. So don't lose the main message here just because of some of these specifics, but you can use the D-Minder app to help
Thank you.
guide you on some of this. Yeah, of course, right? And then the other app, as we're talking about apps, or as I'm throwing out app recommendations, Circadian Life app is so helpful in everything we're talking about, because it will go into that chrono piece, the timing of not only light, not only dark, but also meal timing, exercise timing, et cetera, et cetera. So certainly take a look at that as well. But if so many people are dealing with low vitamin D, and we have real questions of if you just start supplementing, because people will say that, oh, no problem, I'm supplementing, I'm good. And they're in northern Canada, and they're, suddenly they've got 90 or 100 or more levels of when they measure their vitamin D. But we're questioning what is being lost or missed when you're not getting that sunlight on your skin. So that's a longer conversation, but we are clear that there needs to be some of this interaction and interactivity with that sun, both in our eyes and more emerging research around the skin.